So this is the second presentation, since recording is in progress, about gestures versus movement sequences for accessibility. And I think it's Kim, sorry for my French, and Jung presenting, right?
I feel kind of nervous, so yeah, please understand me. So yeah, hello. It might be earlier to say it. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim, and I'm a PhD candidate in China University in Korea. So, in today's presentation, I will first cover the familiar concept of gestures in ICT environments, and then explain how they can be standardized from a new perspective as a movement sequences, then discuss why and how this standardization improves users' accessibility, and ultimately how it can contribute to delivering rich and consistent user experiences in next generation. According to the gesture standardization guideline proposed by Google Material Design, gestures are important interface elements that help users move from screen to screen, perform specific actions, and manipulate content. And these gestures are divided into three main types. First, navigational gestures. Navigational gestures complements buttons or navigation components to help users move easily within the product. Examples of navigational gestures include swiping to return to a previous screen, switching screens, and more. Second, action gestures. Action gestures allow users to perform a specific action or quickly execute a task like a shortcut. And the examples of action gestures include tapping to view content, long pressing, or swiping left and right to bring up additional content. Finally, transform gestures. Transform gestures allow users to adjust the size, position, and rotation of content. An example of transform gestures include zooming in and out of a screen with a double tap or a pinch, or moving object around the screen with a combination of zoom and rotation gestures. And let's look at another guidelines provided by another company, Apple. Apple's guidelines emphasize gestures that feel natural to users. Tapping is the simplest gesture used to activate controls or select items. And for example, tapping an icon to launch an application or pressing a button. Dragging lets users move UI elements around the screen, making it easy to rearrange contents or place items where needed. And pins to zoom gestures help enlarge or shrink content, such as image or text, so users can view details more clearly. And swiping is used for navigation, revealing hidden actions or closing views. For instance, swiping up or down to scroll through a page, or swiping sideways to delete a list item. And touch and hold gesture opens up more advanced controls or context menus, like pressing and holding on an icon to view quick actions. And finally, rotate gestures allow users to twist or spin items, which is especially helpful for editing image or manipulating 3D objects. And the other efforts, the ISO IEC 30113 series is a prime example of an effort aimed at international standardization of gesture-based interfaces. This standard demonstrates an effort to consistently define gestures across different devices and interaction methods, and to enhance accessibility. This 30113 series, along with corporate examples from Google and Apple, exemplify efforts to improve both the consistency and accessibility of user experiences through the systematic standardization of gesture interfaces, and are playing a key role in making digital environments more inclusive. However, they are mostly focused on contact devices, and it is difficult to adopt to devices that utilize different parts of the body or a whole body. Non-contact interfaces still lack standardization as the new paradigm emerge. Devices are shifting from touch-based inputs to contactless methods that track body movements, eye directions, and voice commands. New devices like Metahistory and Apple Vision Pro are removing controllers in favor of more natural and immersive interactions. But these changes also complicate user experiences, underscoring the urgent need to standardize input methods. Unified guidelines for contactless interfaces will improve accessibility and expand digital device available for diverse users. And one of the biggest challenges is the inconsistency of interactions across devices, as each company implements different gesture controls that force users to learn new movement patterns, like raising hands overhead in one system versus flicking a wrist in another to open a menu function. And meanwhile, full body motion tracking is not yet ubiquitous. Most devices focus on finger movements, but medical, military, and the other industry applications require all joints movements, not only just fingers. This technical complexity and inconsistent experiences hinder widespread adoption of contactless interfaces. Contactless interfaces also present a number of challenges translate directly into cost for users. First, contactless methods require significant effort to learn, and the bar chart on the screen illustrate the learning outcomes focusing on retention and comprehension. Computer achieves a learning outcome score of 85, whereas VR scores much lower at around 55. This 30-point gap highlights the difficulties of users in mastering VR system, which demand more time and effort to achieve the same level of proficiency. And addressing this steep learning curve is critical for improving the effectiveness of VR as a learning tool. And second, the user experience is often not yet satisfactory enough in terms of usability. Usability refers to how intuitive and satisfying users find the system. And the bar chart on the screen compares the usability scale using questionnaire between PC and VR. The results show computer systems score around 75 on average, indicating a satisfactory level of usability, while VR lag behind at 55. And third, for users with limited access to technology, such as the elderly and people with disabilities, contactless interfaces are another barrier to technology adoption. A research paper from a digital media lab revealed that assistive technologies used by people with disabilities frequently conflict with VR devices, and partly because many developers lack training in inclusive design. Moreover, another study conducted at the University of Copenhagen measured brainwave data from college students using VR devices to measure cognitive load during training and found out that the group had high cognitive load even though they were not physically or mentally disabled or impaired. So impaired people are expected to have even higher cognitive demands. The digital divide is more than just a lack of familiarity with technology. It creates structural issues that further increase their likelihood of exclusion when adopting new interfaces. While contactless interfaces offer exciting possibility as technology advances, it is crucial to address these challenges to reduce the cost for users. And to do this, we need to take a different approach to gesture. So to say before, let me give you one question. Do you guys recognize what the sign is? I assume that most of you know about this sign. Yes, this is the radiation warning sign, and it can be utilized to share semiotics concept to describe the structure of symbol. A sign is divided into three main elements. First, sign encompasses anything that conveys meaning. If anything can convey meaning, it is considered a sign. And second, signifier refers to the physical form of a symbol. This means how the symbol appears and can be represented as a letter, image, or sound. And this visual element is the first step for people to take in information. And lastly, third, signifier refers to the conceptual meaning that a symbol conveys. This includes the mental and conceptual content of the symbol. So in the example of this radiation warning sign on the screen, the yellow background and black graphic elements are the signifier, and which allows people to understand the concept of radiation warning sign is a signifier. And if someone who doesn't know the meaning of the sign were to see it, they would see it as just a simple graphic image. This shows that the culture and social context of the interpreter is important for a symbol to convey meaning. And this can be applied to gestures and movements. The key to distinguish between movements and gesture is the purpose and interaction with objects in the environment. Simply moving your hands, arm, or body can act as input to the system, but to be a gesture, the combination of the environment and objects must serve a specific purpose. So in a virtual environment, when a movement is combined with an object become a gesture, there is the added complexity of clearly identifying the object in the environment. For example, in the illustration on the screen, the person is holding a ball. Different environments are imagined depending on what the person is throwing. If it's a baseball, the throwing motion is interpreted as a gesture with a purpose of pitching. But on the other hand, if the same throw is made in a volleyball or a basketball game, the gesture is interpreted as a smash or a goal to score a point. In this way, the environments and objects play an important role in determining the meaning of the movement. Now, applying Saussure semiotic structure, gesture can be understood as a process of symbolizing movements. When movement is combined with an object and environment to convey a specific meaning, it becomes more than just movement. It becomes a gesture. So this can be described by the structure sign equal signified plus signifier. And here, movements act as a signifier, the object and environment act as the signified, and the gesture is a combination of the two. Standardization on the definition of a signifier, in this case, the movement, is essential because it is the first step in how people take in information. And let's look at standardization work currently underway from the perspective of Saussure semiotics. NP 25421 documents presents an approach to systematically defining full body movements in user interfaces. Specifically, the standard defines full body movements based on the relative angular movements of the skeleton, and these movements together, they are called movement sequences. Full body movements such as walking, running, or assuming a particular posture are described through the relative angles and connections between skeletal structures rather than simply listing the movements of specific parts. This approach is expected to be able to represent the details of movements. And the standard encompasses full body movements into angle-based elements, organizes them into tabular templates, and define what a particular movement will do in a combination with these elements. Suggested future research on the 25421 standard may focus on refining movements from global to more detailed levels like finger joints and eye movements or facial movements, and creating context-appropriate movement languages. And the second direction is to build a cross-platform movement languages. They unify hand gesture, eye gazing, and facial expressions. This allows users to interact with technology in a familiar way across various platforms and benefiting fields like healthcare, education, and entertainment. So we hope this research continues expanding human technology interactions to new heights. When movements or gestures are quantified as data and accessible through textual documentation rather than simply viewed through video, users can understand their actions more accurately and efficiently. To give an instance, in rehabilitation therapy, quantitative recording of a patient's movements can help to better organize the therapy process. And similarly, in education or sports, standardized recording of movements can provide clear guidance to users, making learning and adoptions easier. Documenting movements is crucial for making gesture-based input more inclusive and improving accessibility, and especially for visually impaired users. By providing clear and step-by-step guidelines, these instructions can be converted into Braille, allowing individuals to learn read them physically and learn each gesture in a tactile way. For instance, a visually impaired person using a VR training program might rely on Braille documentation to understand how to position their hands or move their arms in virtual environments. As they follow their raised dots on the page, they gain confidence and precision in performing their recorded motions, bridging the gap between them and sighted users. This approach reduces guesswork, fosters independence, and ensures emerging digital technologies remain accessible to those who benefit most from intuitive and well-documented interactions. And for people with physical disability or impairment, documenting movements can transform rehabilitation by offering clear step-by-step guidance for each activity. For example, someone recovering from an arm injury can follow detailed VR instructions to gently stretch and strengthen their muscles, then move on to more challenging movements once they are ready. Another individual who uses a wheelchair might practice a virtual flight simulation, regularly building arm and shoulder strength in a fun and engaging way. By adopting these exercises to different physical availabilities, well-documented movements ensure a safer experience, boost motivation, and make meaningful progress possible for everyone. And for the elderly, standardization lowers the burden of consistently rerunning new input methods. For example, the others using VR therapy can benefit from clear, large font instructions that outline each movement in simple steps. They can quickly revisit these guidelines to remember how to begin exercises and adapt to a new device without confusion. This type of precise step-by-step documentation also aligns well with therapy and prevention exercises, and making technology both accessible and beneficial for the elderly. Standardized movements are not just about efficiency. They ensure that everyone can benefit from technology. By reducing the learning load and lowering barriers to use, they help to keep technology open to all. And as we close this presentation today, Let's look at where we stand now, and where we want to go. Right now, human movement interfaces lack standardization, as each device uses its own movements. Though touch devices often include clear instructions, non-contact interfaces remain unstandardized. This situation requires rerunning input methods each time a new device is encountered. In addition, current documentation can be confusing, like the video documentation, making it difficult to grasp at a glance. Moving forward, standardized movements will be introduced to work across devices, creating a device-agnostic and more accessible experience. All elements of movements, hands, eye gazing, and facial expressions will be combined into one framework for consistency across various platforms. Finally, clear and static documentation will be provided to facilitate easier comprehension to use. Thank you for listening today. We look forward to a future where human movement interfaces are simpler, more accessible, and more consistent for everyone. Thank you.
We have time for a short question, I'm afraid, or comments. Okay. Oh, someone online.
Yeah.
Uriel, can you speak? Bonjour, Uriel.
Bonjour.
Yeah, you wish to ask a question.
Thank you very much. From Paris-Saclay University.
A very short introduction of Uriel, who you are.
Yeah, I'm a professor in computer science in Paris-Saclay University. Yeah, I had a question. Thank you very much for this talk. Very interesting. I was interested by one of the pictures you show where you have the I think it's the elderly, the physical therapy for the elderly, and you see the physical therapist actually assisting the gesture of the patient, which is a very classical situation in physical therapy, for instance. And I was wondering, your standardization, does it include also like collaborative gestures, such as in this example where you have like two users and that are actually performing a gesture together?
Thank you for your question. Not now. Answer is, but we are concerning the one person movement at this moment. So once we finalize this the standard documentation, we will continue to develop finger and eye movement, and finally we will do some corporate situation. Each different movement are going to be described in one standard format in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you again